Hello, all. Welcome back to What's On Tonight, a podcast with elaborate, quirky, and unpredictable conversations about TV, movies, and more. I'm Becky.
And I'm Mandy.
Y'all, oh my gosh. Joining us in the pod layer today via Zoom is the amazing Ernest Harden Jr., who played everyone's beloved Louie Cloverfield on the Pitt. Welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being here. This is so exciting.
Hey, thank you. And hey, I'm alive and well.
Then we are so glad. We'll get into it when we get into the questions, but man, there are a lot of characters that have come and gone in the last season and a half of this show. And based on the feedback we got from all of our listeners, every one of us were holding out hope for you. So it's good to see you alive and well over Zoom.
Thank you. I tell people, I said Louie Cloverfield died, but Ernest Harden Jr.'s career was resurrected to another
That's
level.
awesome.
Great.
Yeah, you'll be seeing more of me.
Good.
Since it wrapped up, you've gotten some more roles coming up?
Yeah, I have a movie that I did in Nashville. We filmed in Nashville.
That's where we're at.
That's where we live.
You're kidding.
No joke.
And this guy's, the director's name's Shane Stanley. We were there for about a month and a half.
What'd you think of Nashville?
I kind of liked it. It was really more progressive than I anticipated.
Nashville specifically, yes. Anything outside of that, it's basically the Taliban these days. But yes.
Okay. It was beautiful. The downtown area it looked like Los Angeles skyscrapers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a friend who's down there who is a doctor, retired doctor now. So he showed me all the great places to go to, and he showed me a tour, gave me a tour of the city, which was fantastic. And matter of fact, my wife wanted Uncle Nearest liquor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he said, can you go down there and get an autograph bottle? So he took me to the distillery, and a girl who was behind it all wasn't there, but everybody was very receptive to me. And they gave me a couple of those bottles of signed bottles of Canaries. So she has them in her shelf. She's not going to drink them. She just has
Just
them in
wanted
her
to have
shelf.
them. Yeah. That's a cool story.
It is a great story, and he was the one, right, who told Jack Daniels how to make liquor.
Yeah. You do know that they're already trying to take that narrative back away from her, right?
Really? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, yes. I mean, I think she's run into a couple of just financial realities because we all hit those things, it's when the economy gets tough. I don't want to hijack this conversation completely, but we're going to get into, as we were talking before we started recording, about one of Ernest's early roles that I'm super excited to talk to him about. But race is just a real complex thing down here. And it's... we've all lived side by side for a very long time, and we need each other, and we are in many ways very, very close,
Right.
meaning white people and African Americans, especially. We didn't really have a lot of other ethnicities around here until pretty recently, but Black and white people have been like hand in glove in some very beautiful ways throughout the
Right.
entire history of this country. But also there's a lot of, I don't have to tell you, there's a lot of history down here. And I don't remember who it was that said that, all you have to do is convince the poorest white man that he's better than the best black man. And that is coming, unfortunately, to be more of the reality. Like, I've been here my whole life. Becky's been here her whole life. We started to see some real progress that way. And it's still better. It's still better than it was in, say, 1962. But there's definitely people that want to take us backwards.
Well, I think, the fact that, and I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, but I think after he got elected, I think he touched those people and made them realize exactly what you were saying. Yeah, you're better than the black man, the poorest one, and better than the black man. And so I think he reignited that flame in those people. And that's unfortunate. I just hope it, I was listening to a speech the other day of Jesse Jackson's funeral,
Mm-hmm.
Obama was talking. He was talking about like people just need to come together again and bring that unity back. And we're all people. We are hurting the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And if we, even the fact that if we all voted from our concerns as opposed to skin color,
Mm-hmm.
we could get so much more done. And
Yeah.
these corrupt billionaires were not in power and office controlling all of us, actually.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. It's a heavy situation. But back
Yeah.
to Nashville. I love Nashville. The movie is called Without Prejudice. And it's actually about a judge, he was a judge, he retired, but he was a judge who was openly gay. And his mother cut him off from being educated. She would not give him any money as long as he said that he claimed that he was gay. And he wouldn't change his stance on that to try to fool people or anything. He says, I'm gay and this is how I feel. And so she cut him off completely. And the character I play is a guy named John Reynolds, who is a professor at the college that he was at. And I get him to get his financial aid and a lot of other things that he needed to get through school. And so it's a very good part, supporting lead. And the lead is, oh gosh, don't do this to me, brain.
Yeah. I've been there many times today.
David Arquette.
Wow,
Okay.
that's great.
Yeah, David Arquette. I'm sorry, David, if you're listening to this. I love you.
Odds are he's probably not, but maybe he'll listen because it's you.
And I hear that it was very good. The movie is about the life story of Harvey Brownstone. He's actually got like podcasts. After he retired from being a judge, he started interviewing all these celebrities, these huge old school celebrities from everywhere. Like It Takes a Thief. All the people in that cast.
Yeah.
And he found me. He interviewed me because I had starred opposite Bette Davis, so he was looking for someone who was still alive, who had worked with her. So he does that kind of thing, but they're doing his life story. He's really amazing guy.
Is he from Nashville?
No, he's not. But for
Okay.
some reason, the director said, "Let's go to Nashville," because he had ties in Nashville
Sure.
to shoot it. And you guys are doing a lot of film down there.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
surprised.
There's a whole TV show, the 911 spinoff, the 911 Nashville. Yeah, it's become quite a place for the film industry to come and do their TV shows and movies. It's stressed us out with traffic, but it's good for the economy.
Well, I was thinking about even getting an agent down there. You guys are doing so much.
Oh.
Well, we're available. We know nothing about agenting, but we'd be happy to help.
do not threaten to move to Nashville. You will have us you will be hosting us for dinner once a week. We will be up in your grill 24/7.
I did like it. The weather was mild. It wasn't bad. I enjoyed my time in Nashville.
I mean,
honestly.
look, there's a lot of things to recommend Tennessee. Again, we're both native Tennesseans, lived here our whole lives. There's a lot we really, really love and still love. And honestly, I love the idea of anybody moving here. Unfortunately, we've had a big influx lately of people who move here because they feel like they are going to find a home for their bigotry. And I hate that. That's fairly new. Before that, the people that we were getting were people who were coming here for the reasons that you were talking about, because we're beautiful. We have, really great foliage. It's just, you've still got some room to breathe out here. The tax bracket is pretty low. So anybody that wants to come here that believes in science and education and human rights, come on.
I hear you. I had a great time. My friend took me to different places. The restaurants were nice. The barbecue was fantastic.
Mhm.
Yes.
I had a great time.
Awesome.
All right, well, let's get into it. Let's go ahead and dive in. So our first question is always, how did you end up to get your role in the Pit? But before we get to that, we want to know, how did you get into acting in general?
Okay. I've been in it for maybe 50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in it a long time. What I did is I graduated with a degree in theater at Michigan State University. That was like 1970.
Did you always know that that's what you wanted to do, was
I
theater?
did. Okay, if you want me to go even
Yeah,
further
I do. I
back,
want to know
Yeah, you
that.
tell us as much as you're willing to share.
what happened was, I'm from Detroit, and my mother and father moved to Detroit from Atlanta. My father went to Morehouse. My mother went to Spelman. So back then, blacks going to college, that was kind of a rarity. You know what I mean? Not as much as it is later. They moved to Detroit from Atlanta to just at that time, people were coming from the South to go to what they thought would give them better
This is
opportunities
a
in
great
life.
migration. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So what happens is they bought a house. My father had done a stint in the army, and so they bought a house off his GI Bill in Detroit, and it was in a white neighborhood at the time. But at that time, blacks move into the neighborhood, whites kind of move out. So it was the white flight kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the neighborhood became predominantly black. And the reason, which was okay, but a lot of these guys in Detroit at the time, the auto industry was booming. So someone with no education could work in that factory and make just as much money as someone who
Yeah.
had gone to college and everything. And so all kinds of people were in that neighborhood, and that's where my sister Cheryl Harden and myself were born. Well, I'm telling you, the neighborhood kind of went down, and I had to grow up fighting and doing all that kind of stuff. My sister was super all A's, so she seemed to, but I was kind of like a street guy. I was kind of like a black sheep. My parents were like, "Oh man, I don't know about him. Is he gonna do anything? What's gonna happen?" But I finally, this is early on. I went to this elementary school. You said go back, so I went to elementary school,
Yeah.
and this girl who I liked, she was a little bit older than me, but she was in the class with me, and she was that was my first girlfriend. I don't even know if she's still around today. Constance Dorsey, I remember her name. And she was actually like, pretty girl. She looks like you guys. She was kind of light and, curly hair, and she was beautiful. Well, we sat on one side of the auditorium and she was on the other, and they said, whoever wants to be in the play, sit on this side of the room. And so she got up and went, and other people got up. And I sat there. I didn't go because I said, this is not cool. I won't be the theater. What kind of stuff is it? No, no, that's not tough. So she got over there. And then that whole semester, the teacher, it was a Christmas play, and the teacher, all the lights and the bright lights were on stage, and they were in costumes and the whole thing. And I sat there, and the rest of the class, the teacher kind of neglected all of us. And we were in the dark watching them every day work. Well, that kind of hurt me because I saw my girl who I like, got to know a whole bunch of new guys, and she was up there. I could do nothing but watch, and they were having so much fun. And I said to myself, I will never miss another play, never. And I have never missed another play.
Good for you.
Yeah.
What was your first role?
My first role was I ended up just doing stuff myself because I had to kind of keep it secret. If you're a great athlete and from my neighborhood, you could play basketball, you play football, baseball, okay, you got respect. But being in theater really wasn't it. So I could play basketball as well. I was really good. I wanted to do that, but my height is 5'10", and they come a dime a dozen. But I learned, I remember this one movie that I just fell in love with called The Day the Earth Stood Still back in the day.
Yep.
And with Michael Rennie. And it was actually made in 1951. But by that time I was watching it was coming across the television. And I saw that and I memorized that speech that he gave to Earth. And matter of fact, later on, myself and an actor named Dorian Harewood took it to 20th Century Fox. We wanted to make a remake. And I did this speech. I do a little bit of it. I still remember it. I'm leaving soon. And you'll forgive me if I speak bluntly. The universe grows smaller every day, and the threats of aggression by any groups anywhere can no longer be tolerated. There must be security for all, or no one is secure. Now, this does not mean giving up any freedom. accept the freedom to act irresponsibly. Your ancestors knew this when they made laws to govern themselves and hired policemen to enforce them. We, the other planets, have long accepted this principle. And for our enforcers, we have a race of robots. Their function is to patrol the planets in spaceships like this one and preserve the peace. In matters of aggression, we have given them absolute power over us. This power cannot be provoked. At the first sign of violence, they act automatically against the aggressor. The penalty for provoking their action is too terrible to risk. The result is we live in peace, without arms or armies, secure in the knowledge that we're free from aggression and war, free to pursue more profitable enterprises. I came here to give you these facts. It is no concern of ours how you run your own planet, but if you threaten to extend your violence, this earth of yours will be reduced to a burned out cinder. Your choice is simple. Join us and live in peace, or pursue your present course and face obliteration. We should be waiting for your answer. The decision rests with you. I knew that at 10 years old.
Wow.
How poignant is that considering everything going on in the world today,
It's
man?
so fitting today.
Yes. And we tried to take it to Fox, and they listened to us, me and Dorian. And, matter of fact, I did that speech for them and said, hey, we could come in and maybe we had a writer named Ron Shusett who wrote the original Alien, and he was with us. And they listened, but then they said, no, leave our classics alone, brothers. So we thought it'd just be a nice twist, brothers coming from another planet trying to help save Earth. I thought it was positive, but no.
Just maybe wasn't the time, man. I hope that that's something that gets made in the future because...
Yeah, maybe I can try to, because I think so. I think it would be timely. But the thing is, I went from there and I was doing talent shows with my friend, a guy named Herbert Rice. We were doing talent shows in high school. And when we were graduating high school, I wasn't even planning to go to college. I was going to Herbert and I were just going to go around the city and see if we had an act worked out. And we said, hey, let us go around and see if we can get in these nightclubs and whatever. Well, my mother wouldn't have it. She said, nope.
I was wondering what your mother and father, who were both, I'm assuming, the first college educated in their family, felt about that.
You're going to college. I said, yeah, but my average is C. That's not going to get me in anything. And she said, well, you're going to go. And she took me to this little college across the street from where she worked on a street called Woodward Avenue back in Detroit. And it was called the Michigan Lutheran College. And I did a semester there. And then I had a friend, like I told you, I played basketball, and I was best friends with the star of the team, where he had gone on to Michigan State, and he was the star, 6'5". He went on and had a great pro career. He went to the ABA instead of the NBA right away. But he said, man, you want to come to Michigan State? And I said, yeah, how will I pull off that magic trick? He said, oh, man, he made a couple of calls. They said, well, they want to see you. And I came up and they talked to me and they said, okay, we'll see you up here. They put me on the freshman team. They made me his roommate. It just tells you in life who you know has a lot to do with a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One thing, I was smart enough to stay tight with him because we had so much fun. Hanging around him improved my basketball game immensely, and it was enough to get on Michigan State's freshman team. But he went and jumped to the ABA from college. And so after that, that's far as I went as freshman because his covering was gone. And, I was good, but I wasn't fantastic. This one guy that we became best friends. He said, my goal is to sit my ass on the rim. And I was like, he's not too far from it either. Wow. So he's my height doing stuff like that. I said, where's that theater again? And I said, no, basketball is not for me. No, and this guy can shoot like crazy. His name is Michael Robinson. You can check him. He became the Big Ten leading scorer 2 years in a row, my height. He was shooting out everybody. The third year, he would have won it. He lost to a guy named Campy Russell, but he got hurt. That's the only reason he didn't win in the third year. That's how he was an incredible ball player, especially in college. So I went on and I left and went to New York. I couldn't wait to, my father and all that, they had instilled that drive in me. But I said, no, I'm serious about what I want to do. I want to be an actor. At that point, I was very serious about it and said, I left Detroit, went to New York, and I stayed with my uncle. I had an uncle out there. I stayed with him about 3 weeks. And she said, my aunt, who was his second wife, said, well, you've been here 3 weeks. You haven't made it yet.
I get 3 weeks.
Yeah. I said, well, I want it a little longer. She said, you know what? Because she didn't really believe that, I was going to do anything. And she said, and she knew the business was hard. She said, well, you don't have to go home, but you got to get out of here. So I left. And then from there, I had met a few people and I was on park benches. My uncle actually took me to YMCA, which was called the Sloan House. And he had been an ex-parole officer. So he knew where prisoners come and stay before they're released back into the city. And this place was called the Sloan House. It was a YMCA where they came. So it was a rough kind of place too. And he gave me a little money to stay in there. But when that money ran out, I was like on park benches, everything.
Wow.
It was some girl I met. She was very nice to me. She worked at McDonald's. She said, come on later. They throw the food away. But if they don't eat it, if they don't sell it that day, they threw it away. You can come and get some. I would do that. And, made some friends. Then I was staying on people's floors and stuff like that. And I'm telling you, the Black community, the theater community in New York, I met them all. They all bonded. Everybody had the same attitude. They all wanted to make it to be recognized in the business. They were coming from everywhere. And so we all bonded. So I knew a lot of them, and they would help each other and all that. Oh, man, you don't have any food, or if you don't have a place to stay, come. Or if you're on this bench. I had at that time, that was before cell phones. I had this phone booth. And so if I go in auditions that day, I would give them that phone booth number and say, come back. And if the phone is ringing and someone's getting ready to go to the phone to make a call, no, hold on, please let me.
It's Ernest's office.
Right.
So there was stuff like that. And I'd be up early in the morning. I mean, I did have a drive that was beyond. Some of the actors said, I don't think I would go through what you went through. But I would get up every morning. It was a paper called Backstage. And you get it. I get it at 4:00. So I'd be up first because when these auditions arised, there was a long line of people waiting to audition in every one of them. And I said, I've got to be first. Or you'd be waiting 2 hours in line for a little part in a play, anything. That's how much competition there was. And I'll tell you this little story, and it's real quick. So what happened was I was out, but I had a girlfriend in Detroit. We broke up just before she came out, but her mother was living in New York. I called her. I was down and out. And she said, Ernest, you're in town. I heard you were here. I said, yeah. She said, well, did you come around for dinner? Yeah. She said, I think I can. Let me check my schedule. Yeah, I can make it. And so I was there, and she liked me, even though I broke up with her daughter. I thought she was going to curse me out. That's why I didn't call her at first. But she liked me so much, and I stayed there probably 8 months. That saved me. I didn't have anything, and she kept a roof over my head. And matter of fact, her daughter was a famous actress at the time named Denise Nicholas. That was my girlfriend's big sister. And so she knew what it took to making the show, so she had an idea already. Well, I left one day I saw an audition, and I went it was in Manhattan, and there was a movie that was happening for $175 a day. And that was like $1 million to me. I had no money. And so I got there, and the guy says, "I like you. You're perfect. This is going to be a great movie. Fantastic movie. Wow, man, a great porno movie."
Oh, oh.
Porno? I said, "Will anybody see that?" He says, "Nobody." I said, "No, everybody will see it." And I can see my father on this side and my mother on this side, on my shoulder saying, "You know what? You came all the way out here. You could have done that in Detroit somewhere." And I told the guy, I said, and I was starving too. I said, "You know what? I'm going to pass." He got mad at me. I was really surprised. He really wanted me for that role. And he jumped up from behind the desk and followed me into the waiting room and said, "I hope you can get into something your mother can watch."
Like
And
he was
I,
being sarcastic?
no, he was mad. But he said that in front of people who were waiting in the waiting room. He just hollered it out. "I hope you can get in something your mother can watch." And I just turned around and walked away. I had two tokens, one to get me to Manhattan, one to get me back to Brooklyn where I was staying with her name is Miss Bergen, and my girlfriend's name was Michelle Bergen. But I got the next week, and this is why I'm telling you this story, because all you young actors out there, stick by your guns. Because the next week I was hustling and I was looking for an agent, and I went to the wrong office. And this guy was filming some actors, and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt." He said, "No, come in, come in." He thought I was right for whatever it was. So after they left, he started filming. He said, "You're an actor, right?" "Yeah, yeah." And he said, "Read this." And so I read it. And he said, "Are you union?" "SAG, Screen Actors Guild." And I said, "And I heard if you lie, they will blackball you forever." I said, "No, I'm not." And he said, "You know what? Though I like you so much, I'm going to send you to the set." He was casting small roles. And at that time, I didn't know if it was what was the difference between having an extra, being an extra, or having a small role. I didn't know the difference. But he said, "I'm going to send you to the set. You check in with someone, so if they kick you off, they do." I got there. I was in a bus with a bunch of extras. They called me by my name, by myself. I said, "Oh, I'm busted." Gosh, I was hoping they'd call me with a group, but they didn't. They called me by myself. And then I came in and he says, I thought they were going to just say, "And get out of here." He turned me to where the action was. There were all the lights and the cameras. Started walking away as people were screaming. I had this huge fro at the time, and people, there were white people who were looking. They didn't know who this black was. The only one they knew was Jermaine Jackson.
Oh my God.
And he walked me up, and he says to the lights and everything. He said, "Hi, I'm Sidney Pollack, and this is Robert Redford.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
You guys have scenes together." And I was thinking, me, of course, me. Yes, me, of course. And I worked on that film for a week. I was now making $350 a day, which was way better than the 175 to do that porno movie. And I got to be kind of tight with Robert Redford at the time and Faye Dunaway. The movie was called 3 Days of the Condor. And that's the first movie that I ever spoke in. If you see the credits at the end, you'll see my name at the very end, the last credit saying teenager.
Oh.
Yeah. The publicist and I got to be tight, and everybody was kind of like, they were very supportive. They paid for my union. That's how I became SAG through that movie, 3 Days of Condor. And then from there, I could go on and do other films. I was in Taxi Driver with Robert De Niro. I met them. I met Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese at 3:30 in the morning. And if you look and slow that movie down, you'll see where I came in to try to get a ride from Robert De Niro. And he looked up and he said, "Oh no." And he pulls off. Me and other guys are chasing him, throwing eggs at
I
his
remember that
taxi.
scene.
But if you do that, you'll see slow. You'll see me like this,
That's amazing.
Yeah, that and Woody Allen, the front. And then finally, I did a movie called Aaron Loves Angela. I started working. And I did this movie called Aaron Loves Angela with Kevin Hooks and Irene Cara. And Irene turned me on to her manager, and who was a lady named Selma Rubin, who had Ralph Carter, Donnie Most from Happy Days. Ralph Carter was from Good Times, the little boy in Good Times. Donnie Most from Happy Days, Teresa Saldana, myself. She turned me on to Francis Ford Coppola, and he was auditioning for a movie called Apocalypse Now. And he liked me, and he put me on the plane to send me to LA to audition. And who was on that plane? None other than my friend who we were in talent shows in high school, Herbert Rice, was there. And it was one other actor. His name was Lawrence Fishburne, who actually got the role. The rest is
Yep.
history.
Yep.
But it was us three on the plane going to audition for that. And I didn't get it. I said, gosh, but you know what? I got to come back to LA to get a more film of myself. Hopefully, then I can get better parts in theater in New York. I never planned to leave New York. But when I got back to LA, I stayed on the guide floor again. I got a Coke commercial. And then I also got a part on the Jeffersons, as the character's name was Jason King. And they liked it so much. They called my apartment and said that we want to give you a series because we like the chemistry with you and George so much, you and Sherman Hemsley. And so I came back and we were at the producer's office and he says, well, Ernest, how do you like the role? And I was looking through the script and I didn't see Jason King anywhere. And I was like, oh, well, they started me off small. I said, I love it. It's great. I love this role. And he said, well, Marcus, you got a lot to do there. And, it's an on-air screen test. If you flop, you're out. So I just don't mean to put that pressure on you, but they're going to do that. You don't have to screen test behind the scenes. They're going to air this show. And I looked and I saw Marcus on every page. I said, they had changed my name to Marcus Henderson, and that's the character that I played. And then I went home, sleep was overrated. I was up studying my eyeballs out all week.
I remember that role, by the way. I was a massive fan of the Jeffersons.
Yeah.
And I remember that storyline.
It turned
Yeah.
out, well, let me just say that at the end of that, I did it, and the rest is history. I did the show for 3 years as a Marcus.
How was Sherman Hemsley?
He was awesome, awesome. I love Sherman. He was my friend. He's really quiet in real life.
Really? I had heard he could be kind of a pistol.
He was like, we're talking in an intimate situation. He would have you laughing, but he hated crowds. He did not like to talk in front of a lot of people.
Gotcha.
At the end of each show, they would have us in our dressing rooms, and then they would bring some of the audience members back to the dressing room to get autographs. He would wait till the last one left before he came out of his dressing room. He just did not like crowds.
That was probably where he got that reputation from.
But being around him, just in a little 2 or 3 people conversation, intimate conversation, man, he had you rolling. He's natural. And so after that, that was Marcus. And that kind of gave me a whole lot of exposure. And it comes to even the movie that I did with Bette Davis. It was on the same network.
Yeah. So I want to get into that.
So you mentioned that, you appeared in the Jeffersons and you were in iconic films like White Men Can't Jump. So looking back, what is the most significant change that you've seen in Hollywood regarding opportunities for Black actors? Because it sounds like you literally started on the floor and worked your way up. So if you could talk a little bit about that.
Once you answer that question, Ernest, I do want you to talk about that role specifically. White Mama was, I think, your first major starring role. Ernest, is that correct?
Yeah, in a movie, yeah.
And it was starring Bette Davis, who anybody
Right.
out there, if you don't know who Bette Davis is, shame on you. She was a huge
Icon.
icon, founding star of Hollywood. Her career was just legendary. By the 1980s, I think she was kind of struggling to get roles. I want to know a lot about that. I want to hear about how that role was received at the time. I started watching it yesterday and I told Ernest I had to pull myself away from it just to come to this interview because for me personally, I found it really touching. It was about a white older woman, and this was, I think it was filmed in 1979, 1980, who had fallen on hard times, who lived in New York City. Her husband had passed. It kind of felt like maybe she was in genteel poverty before her husband passed. And then very quickly, she started to be at the mercy of what happens in this country when you are elderly and poor. And she takes in this kid who, that was the role that you were playing, was this teenage boy who was getting out of, I think it was juvenile
Right.
detention. And she had
Right.
agreed to let him live with her and was getting some government assistance money for allowing him to live there. But that
Right.
quickly ran out as he got older. And it was just about their relationship and how they helped each other navigate being poor in that city at that specific point in history. And the reason I think it touched me so much is because it was so much. First of all, I just love Bette Davis. Secondly, it was very much the story of my great grandmother. My great grandmother was never worked outside the home, and my great grandfather was educated. Like they had come from poor farming family, but that generation and the generation right before them had gotten a little bit of an education. His father had been in the newspaper business, so he got in the newspaper business. And so they had kind of a very interesting life, and they were above the poverty line. They got to have some amazing adventures. He got to, they got to go travel, do different things, but I don't think my grandfather was great with money. And so when he passed, she very quickly found herself in the neighborhood that they had been living in at that time when they bought the house in like the 30s or 40s was like the nicest neighborhood in Nashville. But by the time he passed in 79, 80, it was the worst neighborhood in Nashville as far as crime and poverty went. And suddenly all of her neighbors are black, and she's the lone 80-year-old white lady living among all black neighbors. And it's interesting because my great grandmother was kind of a hero to me. I'm going somewhere with this because I really want to hear what you have to say about that role. My great grandmother, for my family, the vast majority of my family, just to be perfectly frank, incredibly racist. It's never made sense to me. I don't know why I was born and just from birth, racism seemed stupid and asinine. And I just don't understand judging people for the way that they're born, especially when we were in the poorest part of Nashville at that time. The only difference was we were white.
Right.
But at any rate, her neighbors she was one of the most progressive members of my family. She left a journal of her whole life from birth and like, her journey. She was very Christian, but like in a real sense of a Christian. She loved people. She wanted to see people do better. She genuinely considered all humans her family. That being said, she was a white lady who was born in 1901. And, the memory that I have of that growing up is that I was so grateful that she was protected by her neighbors who kept her safe and looked out for her and did things for her. And reading her journal, like, she and her grandmother integrated, like, I don't know how the people of the church felt about it, but like in the early 1900s, they heard a revival going on at a church across the creek in this rural part of Tennessee. And it was a black church. And they went over there and had revival with them. And she, through the civil rights era, she was very much somebody who wanted to see progress between the
Wow.
races. There was a time about a year ago, I was going through she left this huge trunk that I have now got because I've kind of inherited the family genealogist role of, family from going back at the late 19 or 1800s. There was a picture in there of a school photo of this young black little boy from 1982 or something. It was very old photo. And we had no idea who this kid was. And it had his name written in the back. It was Jay with a J-A-I. So I started looking it up. Turns out he knows a friend of mine. He works for the library here. Awesome guy, super into music. He's been a librarian. He's a real fascinating person. I'm so glad we're like Facebook friends now. But I've asked him, I'm like, are you this kid? And how does my grandmother have your photo? Turns out he was this kid that lived across the street from her. And when his dad and mother were separated, and when his mom had to work late, when he would get off the bus, he would come over and stay at my grandmother's house, and she would give him lunch and a snack and help him do his homework and things like that.
Wow.
It was really amazing, and it made me tear up, and I was like super proud of my grandmother. But I will say this, Jay has been very polite and like, yep, your grandmother, there she was. But I have a feeling that even though my grandmother was incredibly progressive for my family and for the white person at the time, God knows what young Jay heard come out of her mouth that maybe was ignorant, because as much as she wanted to be progressive, in some ways, even though black and white people have always been very close here in the South, we've also been very segregated. And so she was very much, she had a good heart and wanted the best, but I cannot fathom that there weren't things that she said that maybe weren't hurtful and painful. He has fond memories of her, but I also think he sees her a little bit differently than I did. And so that's what I was thinking of the whole time I'm watching this film. And I had read where you had said that you got some flack from the black community and from progressive white people about that role and about that film, that they felt like it was a bit of blaxploitation or a little bit condescending. But I felt like it had a lot of heart, and I felt like it was very progressive for the time, and it was very compassionate to both the young man that you played and this older white lady who was facing the reality of poverty in America in a way that she had been protected from to that point. So I want to hear what you had to say about that. Like, how was that role, and what do you think about it today?
First, I'll tell you how it came about, if you want that.
Yeah.
Again, I was my friend Dorian Harewood, who was at that point, he was a brother, but he was working a lot, a little bit older than I was. He did a play with Bette Davis. And so she liked him. And so she wanted to do this movie, White Mama, with him. And the network thought, you look too old, because the guy was supposed to be 16. Now, even though I was out of college, at that time I had a really young face, and they thought I could pull it off. But the thing is, he came to me one day, and I had just finished shooting this thing called Buffalo Soldiers. And I was telling everybody about that. And I was on the Jeffersons at that time. And I was telling everybody, Isabel Sanford and Sherman and everybody else, got to watch this. And I was so proud of this. It's a black cavalry, the Buffalo Soldiers, if you're not
Yeah, we know.
familiar.
Yeah, I need to look that up now.
Who was in it? A guy named John Beck was the white lead, but then there was Philip Michael Thomas was in it, Charlie Robinson. We had a good cast, and it was an NBC film. We thought it was really going to do well, but it didn't. But anyway, when I got in it, I was telling everybody about it. I was so proud of it. And then it cut me out, basically.
Oh,
That was the first time. They kept my name because, they crossed the screen for the credits. But I was cut out of the movie. And that was the first time that had ever happened to me. I didn't expect it. So everybody was like, where were you? And I was like, I didn't know. Maybe it was a bummer. Maybe because I had a fro and I wouldn't cut it down or something. I don't know. And but they cut my scenes out. And so I was depressed because Isabel was telling me, oh man, you had me watch that. I didn't even see you, I was kind of embarrassed.
Isabel, she's an actress. She should have known better than that.
She did me. She did me. I loved her though. She was cool, but she felt close enough to tell me that, because they went and everybody was ready to get in front of their television and watch it. So my mother, everybody, I said, gosh.
Oh, what a bummer.
So I was there depressed, and here comes Dorian. Man, Ernest, Bette Davis wants to see you. And I'm like, don't bother me, man. I'm not in the mood to your jokes. Bette Davis, what does she want to see people? No, she wants you to do this movie with her, man. You got to have a meeting, this and that and that. So finally, I said, are you serious? Yeah. So next thing you know, we set up a meeting. I went to Bette Davis's apartment. She had an apartment in West Hollywood. I thought she would have a spread laid over a half of the Hollywood Hills or something, but no. She had an apartment. It was still a doorman, and it was a swank apartment, but it was I was surprised she was staying in an apartment. So I went there and we had a meeting. And first time I met her, I was like, oh wow. And she says, well, Ernest, and she had cigarettes. She had a chalice with BD inscribed on all over her house. She liked to smoke. And she said, well, Ernest, I like you. I think, who should I get to direct us? Us. Of course, us. By this time, I'm a first name. Oh, you pick 'em, Betty.
Yeah.
And she said, well, maybe Jackie Cooper. Yeah, that would be a good one. Jackie Cooper, if you familiar with him, he was like one of the Little Rascals.
Yeah. I was wondering if he was the one that got you all involved, but you're saying Betty's the one that got him pulled on board.
Betty, yeah, she pulled him. She hired the director after she said that she wanted me. So I came in really high on that one. And she brought in Jackie Cooper, and he had a series years ago called Hennessy. So he was the star of that. He was a Navy captain or something like that. He's an icon too. And so next thing you know, they pull us all together. And she says, hey, they wanted someone else to play the lead, but Betty insisted that if I'm not the lead, she's moving it to another network. She was there for me.
Oh, that's
And
great.
next thing you know, I ended up getting the part. Now I'm doing the part. I'm really wanted to do well. They kept giving me different scripts. I studied every one and I had it down. And she liked my work ethic because she was a very serious actress. Every bit of her wardrobe, she wanted to make sure she was there overseeing just every aspect of her character. And the fact that like I wanted to absorb whatever she did and try to incorporate it in what I was doing. She definitely liked that. We would not only work together, but we were friends because she also knew that to play White Mama, to be my mother, she had to really get close to me. And we ended up, at times when it was Thanksgiving, she'd invite me over to dinner and
Aw.
all that kind of stuff. Yeah. We became, even after the movie, we stayed tight. To answer your question, yeah, that movie touched so many people because here it is, Black man working opposite an icon. This was their icon. This was Bette Davis, and you name it. I don't know who, Clark Gable. She was that level where
Right.
everybody
Old
knew
Hollywood.
her. Yeah, old Hollywood. And here it is, I'm starring opposite. So you can imagine the amount of notoriety I got instantly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
When that movie came out, the difference is, for example, the Pit. I'm like pretty hot as an actor right now
Yeah.
because of the Pit, but this is streaming. When you wanted to see something like White Mama, 9 o'clock Tuesday or 9 o'clock Sunday, you had to be in front of your television to watch it.
Yeah. And then that was it. Like it was
Yeah.
gone after that.
And after that, it was explosion. I couldn't go out of the house. I tried to eat at a restaurant. I felt so embarrassed because I would have food hanging out of my mouth and everybody's looking at me. It was crazy.
Well, how was it received though? Like, did you get criticism from people about the role?
They loved it. I'm telling you. Everywhere people were, oh my gosh, I remember my little car, I had a car. It broke down and then I said, can I make a call? I just knocked on the guy's number. I said, can I make a call? I just want to call the AAA or something to help me. And he says, oh man, my God, it's you. And he took me down to personally do this and bring the mechanic back and all that kind of stuff. It was amazing. I would go home. Back then we had answering machines.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I'd come in, the tape was wound out. That's mean people have been calling me all day, wound the tape out, and the phone was ringing. So I couldn't even get to some of the people I wanted to talk to. And I couldn't, it was amazing. I remember it was so funny. I like to shoot around at a court in an area called West Hollywood. West Hollywood is it's kind of out here, gay. They're predominantly gay in West Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's a nice area. And some people nickname it Swish Alps, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've heard that.
But I used to go and shoot. They had a great basketball court, and I go around shoot. I went around and shot a little bit, and these guys were playing volleyball. And I don't know, gay men love Bette Davis.
They do.
Yeah.
Oh, next thing he ran, I thought, oh my God. Oh,
That's
Well,
amazing.
you were with Bette Davis. So I mean, everywhere I went, it was amazing. I was so hot. And the thing is, you're right. The movie touched people because we did a publicity tour that went around the country, and people were coming up to me with white older women saying, "This touched me. This is my situation." I was shocked to see it. It was everywhere. Now, when you're talking about the blacks, I didn't feel that they felt that was exploitation. The movie it came on a regular national network I mean, nobody felt it was black exploitation. And on top of it, when I went back to Detroit, man, I was mobbed by everybody in the church. Oh man, they loved it. So the thing is, only one person, and I'm telling you, that really was negative about it. I went up for a movie, or I think it was called Same Old Song. I'm not sure who it was with, but this director done a lot of stuff, a black director. I don't think I should say his name because he did a lot of stuff though. And I went in there and he said to me, and I was hot from this movie, and he said, "We didn't need that. We did not need that. Matter of fact, that situation is not real at all. So I don't know what that was about, but we didn't need that." And I was reading for his film. He just slumped me off. And you know who got the film? Denzel Washington. That was one of Denzel Washington's first movies out.
Really?
I'm trying to think of the star opposite, but I didn't get it. And he just thought that doing White Mama was something that wasn't necessary for us. But he's the only one. The rest, everybody else was cool. Except, you're right, there was a racist element to working. When we were working, people were hearing that we were doing this film. And they were I remember one day, we were all in the van going back to our homes after shooting that day. And Bette Davis and Jackie Cooper both said, "Ernest, we're getting a lot of mail already. Some of it is hate mail." I said, "Really?" He said, "You want to?" And I remember Betty asking me, "Do you want to hear any of this?" I say, "Yeah." Thinking I was naive too. I was young, but I'm thinking, Martin Luther King died in 1968. So this is 1979. The racism in the country has dissipated somewhat, but not really, because they were, and even now. But the thing is, she started reading, "Oh, are you doing a movie with that N-word? I will never watch another of your movies, Betty." They were saying stuff like that. And I mean, Bette Davis to me was revered. She was iconic it was like being with the queen, the royalty. I mean, how could anybody write a letter to her? You know what I mean? I could not understand it, but hey, racism rears its ugly head no matter what, and it exists. And somebody took the time to write and send that to her. They say every letter represents 10,000 people.
Yeah.
So, it was deep, but when it came out, it exploded. And I don't know, but the thing is, this is what I'm saying. Then I think they ran it back a couple of times. They stopped. And they stopped. And I'm just saying, they never included in any of Bette Davis's work, but yet she was up. The whole movie was up for an Emmy. So I was part of that. It was some of her best work. She specifically got an Emmy nomination. The only reason we didn't win is because they boycotted the Emmys that year because there was a strike.
Oh, what a bummer.
Yeah, a strike in the business that
Oh,
lasted
that sucks.
basically a year. And the thing is, me being so hot, that was a peak for me in my career. But after a year of no work, nobody was doing anything. All of a sudden, these guys like Wesley Snipes and whoever else were coming through. My career kind of fell through the cracks, and I was just another black actor. And I never stopped. I kept like the Atlanta Child Murders. I had good roles.
Yeah, that was a good role too.
Yeah, but to separate me from everybody else, I kind of fallen back because of that strike. And those things are not in your power to control.
No.
It's such a tough business.
So how did you end up getting on the Pitt?
Well, the Pitt was, I've constantly worked because, I'd done White Men Can't Jump and all that, but.
Love that movie. Still holds up too. So good.
Yeah, thank you. But the thing is, I ended up getting a great manager. I've gone through so many people, agents and this. They claim that you spend a year with them, that's a year of your life, then you realize they're not doing anything. And that's like being married, then you break up. So 10 of them is 10 years, that quick. You know what I mean? So I had done this little indie film, and I was starring in it, and it was called Velvet Jesus. It was a powerful role. It really was a guy who felt that he was molested by me. I was a stepfather, and I had molested him when he was young. And then he comes back to confront me because I don't know it all. It was all pushed back, and he wasn't clear, whatever. But I was like constantly denying. It's a very heavy film.
It sounds really good.
Sounds
We did,
very.
yeah. Velvet Jesus. You can find it on Tubi right now.
Okay.
If you go to it, yeah, Velvet Jesus. But I have the lead in it, and so my manager. She's my manager now, but my friend brought her to the screening. They screened it in a big theater, and it was on the big screen. And she was looking at, and my friend was there. He said, "You're riveted." She said, "I don't see anything false on that screen. Oh my God, I got to have him." And she saw from that movie, she got in contact with me. And to make a long story short, we started working together. And she says, I can do something. I can make you. And she started giving me these auditions because I told her, listen, I've been around too long. No, don't give me a one-line role. I don't mind that. I know even if I need to work, I'd rather wait for the better roles and all that. We were locked in with that attitude of trying to take it from where I had it already and move forward. And she started giving me auditions, and one of them was the Pitt. Well, the Pitt we just thought it was a one-shot deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I read for it. These days, they don't come in, especially after COVID. They don't bring you in as much. They just let you tape yourself and send it in.
Yeah, we've heard that. They don't do like chemistry reads almost ever anymore.
Not as much. Now it's starting to lighten up again. They'll see you in person, but not as much. And COVID stopped all that. And so you would send in your tape. And they kind of like that, the companies or the casting people, because they don't have to get office space and none of that stuff like they had to do. So they're just sitting there looking at tapes. And so what happened was I sent my tape in and they liked me. Then they brought me in to read in person for this particular role. And everybody was in the room, and I didn't know any of them at the time. And man, I read, and they liked me again, and they said, "Well, we don't want you to play this particular role. We want you to play the alcoholic." And I was like, brother, alcoholic, another one? I'm thinking, no. And the role that I was reading for, I thought was awesome because it was a role where the young Dr. Whitaker, if you watch the show,
Oh yeah.
had a conversation with him and telling him how proud he was that this guy was the first person in his family to become a doctor, and that must be nice. And
Yeah.
they had a nice conversation, and I was like, wow, that's what I wanted. They said, oh, but then he said, but no, they want you to do this, Louie. So I sent in another tape, and they said, you were perfect at it. We love it. And it's so funny because this time it was Louis, and he was drunk, and this and that, and I don't drink.
Oh my
At
gosh.
all?
Really.
Wow.
Well, you nailed
Sometimes,
that.
my mouth. That's funny. My kids laughing. What drunk you? They just laughed. I said, I guess I fooled them. And so he said, don't tell anybody that. I say, well, I'm gonna be honest. And the thing is, they like that. They like me. So I said, hey, okay, Louis, but you know what? I'm gonna be Louis, but I'm gonna, they like my smile and all that, and he's a happy drunk. No, no, not just that. He's gonna be a real person because alcoholism is serious.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want it like that. That's how I'm gonna portray this guy. I mean, he's got a good personality, but he also is going through some things, and
There's a tragedy there.
he ain't always happy. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Especially when I came in season 2 where my tooth is hurting. Fix me. I ain't happy right now. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just make them a real person. So I took, hey, an actor, and that's what I wanted to do, and just make him not a caricature, but a character. And the guy, what was deep was, I saw the guy who got the role that I originally wanted and read for. What he did, it was a nice scene. He did one scene. Then the next show, he was flatlining. I said, oh my gosh, he's gone.
Yeah.
Boy, I was lucky.
Well, I
Well,
think it's because you said that, you were talking. I think the fact that you don't drink alcohol maybe is a benefit here because it was almost shocking to find out that Louis' situation was that he was an alcoholic because alcohol, like he had progressed to the point of alcoholism that it wasn't a question of being quote unquote drunk anymore. It was literally medicine to keep him from
Right,
shaking and having all of these, like it wasn't, I don't even know that at that point some alcoholics can't even get to a point of like quote unquote inebriation where they're going to be acting funny or all of
right,
the things you might normally do to portray drunk. You were showing the real devastating medical costs of
right.
lifelong alcoholism.
They
He was
had
at
me
end
in
stage.
season 1. I was drunk in one of them. They showed me being inebriated.
But it was more of like a plateau. I guess the
Right,
difference is you weren't up being silly or starting fights or being
exactly.
out of control. You had been an alcoholic, your character been an alcoholic to the point that it was more of just this is what I need to be able to just feel, to just
Right,
be okay.
right, right,
well, your character ended up having a massive emotional impact on the viewers, us included. When you took that role, and it sounds like you made the right call to take the role, but make it as your own. And I love hearing that because your character resonated with so many of us. So, how does it feel to know that you genuinely are one of the most loved story arcs that have come from this amazing TV show?
Okay, how does it feel? This is unbelievable. It's a phenomenon. I didn't expect it to be. I mean, you should see some of the social media. My son handles it now because I looked at Instagram maybe 6 times. Can you man? My son is handling all that. And then he said, Dad, I got this. He's an executive at Apple, so he knows all the algorithms and all that stuff, which I don't know
Wow.
too. Oh yeah, he's
That's
doing.
his bag, yeah.
He says, man, you got 10,000 followers today, and I connect you with HBO, and I did this and I did that. And I said, wow, and here's something from Australia, and So he's got a handle. He's the one that is helping me on the social media side. And to see all these people, oh, I cried for you 2 days. Oh, you were just like you can't kill Louie. It's Black History Month.
Yeah.
I
We
mean,
were saying that. Those were us, by the way.
oh,
We were the people saying that.
I mean, so many people, oh, you touched me, you were like my father and da da da, or you're like my brother and my mother went through. That was, and Noah Wiley and I, we text each other all the time. And I said, Noah, you got to see some of this. This is amazing. And he says, that's what makes it all worth it, Ernest, that the work you put in, you touching people like that
Did
makes
you
it
know
all
him
worth.
from? I saw that you did an episode of ER. Did you know him from ER?
I didn't work with him on that, so
I
I didn't
thought
know
maybe
him.
not. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I did. It wasn't with him, so I didn't know him. Let me tell you this little story. So this is really what happened. I got the role of Pitt, and so the first day I was there, the first day they said, "Welcome everybody. This is the Pitt. Here we go." Right? I was the first day on the set with them, and so we were gonna. I had a scene, and I think it was the scene with that. I was in the chair, and he was coming to introduce himself to me and put your hand out, see, and all that stuff. And so we were waiting to shoot that. And I said to Noah, I had done a little research. I knew that he was not only the actor, but he was the executive producer on the show too. One of them. John Wells is the main man, but he was right there. So I said to him, I said, Noah, I heard that you were executive producer on the show, and he said, yeah. And I said, I was wondering if I could have a little better billing. I like my billing on if possible, like a single card where it's not just 100 names and your name is included, or maybe by itself, And he says, well, why would I do that? And I said, well, I've been in a few things. I had a series, The Jeffersons. I had a lead in that, and I did that for about 3 years, and then I starred in a movie called White Man Can't Jump, and I was one of the stars of Wesley Snipes, Woody Harrelson, and I back in the day I did a movie starring opposite Bette Davis, and this movie was called White Mama. So she named it because that was her thing to make sure that everybody knew that she was working with a black man. And he said, "Oh, yeah, Bette Davis." So that when did you do that movie with Bette Davis? I said, I did it. It came out in 1980. And I said, how old were you in 1980? He says, I was 10.
Yep.
And I said, oh, okay. You, you're 10 years old. I'm starting movies. And then he started to raise up. And I said, you know what? Because I said, I didn't want to offend you. I'm sorry. No, 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 no. We were talking shop, talking with her. Cool. So the week went by. We didn't have another scene until we finally had one toward the end of the week. And he looks at me and he says, before we start, he says, 3 days of the Condor. I said, 3 days of the Condor. I didn't tell you about that. Oh, you've
Oh,
been researching
he
me.
looked.
He did his
All
homework,
right.
didn't
He
he?
said, yeah, I just want to see if you were full of crap. And I said, well, now you know I'm full of crap. And we burst out laughing. And we stayed tight the whole shoot, all the first scene.
Oh,
That was it. He was telling everybody, do you know Ernest Harden starred opposite Bette Davis? But Jackie Cooper directed it, who also worked with Charlie Chaplin. So Ernest has a Charlie Chaplin connection. I said,
Yeah.
I'm with you. And he says, and so it was just like all the cast, because some of the cast members, this is their first gig,
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Some of
they
them are
look at it, I'm
babies.
with, and they were picking my brain about I'm working with their heroes. And he goes,
Oh,
what's Willem Dafoe like? I said, oh man, he's great. Me and Willem, we got to be tight, and
I'm glad you got your flowers because you have a very storied career, a very long and very storied career. So,
very.
yeah,
in
that's
other
all.
words, I'm old. So he says,
No.
You're
I'm
honestly
choosing.
not. We're right behind you, not too far.
So he says, he grabs my hand. He said, "You'll be back next year." But you hear that, you don't trust
You don't
what
know.
people,
Yeah.
you don't know. But yeah, thank you, but it was positive. And we always take a picture together. And he had like a Pitt thing, and you can find it on my Instagram or something. And we always take that. And then they called me back when they said hey, we got season 2, and they actually called me. So I was really happy, and this is going to be great. Thank you, John Wells, hugging everybody. And he said, "Yeah, you ready to work?" Yeah. So we get there, and I'm there. They made this big prosthetic stomach for me.
I was
And
going
that's
to ask you, is that
yes, it was. They made that off of my body. See, I don't have it now. But
yeah.
they made it off of, took a plastic thing and just made it. And I had to stand up. It was excruciating to stand up for 2 hours straight while they put that thing, and it got heavier and heavier too, like almost 50 pounds. And they made that, and it was kind of like it was a jacket. And I had to put it on before I go
Yeah.
shoot. And they colorized it to be, match my skin and all that. But no, that was stomach. It was funny. I was in the waiting room area where you see on TV. I was ready to do my scene, and this girl was in there pregnant. And I said, "So I'm uh I'm 9 months. How many months are you?" And she says, "Wow, you look like you're gonna have triplets."
Yeah.
Yeah, I had fun with that. But anyway, when we started working, I was happy just to do what I did the season before. I came in about like 6 times maybe, but in and out, semi-regular. So I thought I would be happy to do that. And I had no idea what they had in mind. And when we shot a little bit, I said, "Oh wow, this is good. I'm getting a chance to the scene that we did with me and Patrick Ball, the
Oh, I
scene
love
where he
that.
steals my pills and he confesses to me, and we shot that one. And I said, "Oh wow, that was nice." So I said afterwards, I said, "Okay, oh no, you got a lot more work to do." And I said, "Oh, really?" "Yeah." And that's when I kind of found out because they're kind of secret. They don't let you know script after script after script what's
Mm-hmm.
going to happen.
Give you little
You
pieces.
find out. You find out. Yeah. And then I realized that they had a whole arc for Louie. They were going to give me my backstory and the whole thing. And that is,
The
I
saddest
was
damn
like,
backstory in the history of cinema
Yeah,
for
like
it
Pirates.
was.
it wasn't enough that we just lost you and your wit and the knowledge that you brought to the staff and to the audience about, alcoholism and the history of Pittsburgh that they had you
Right.
teaching us, each, it just, as if that wasn't enough. Well, here, let us go ahead and rip your heart out by telling you that Louis had a wife and a child, that you never even got to meet your child. They died in a car accident. I'm
Right.
like, good Lord.
Right. Right.
Yeah, they were really trying to kill us with that one.
Right. And the thing is, Noah, I said, because Noah, he directed that last one where I was at the funeral and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This was his creation.
Mm-hmm.
Noah was the architect for this whole thing. After he checked my resume and all that, I guess he just gained total respect. He says, we call this, they said, "Wow, the arc of your character was great." And so Noah and I like playfully call it Noah's Ark.
Oh, that's
And
cute.
yeah, it was Noah's Ark. And he was every time like I was on film, you could see his head popping in there somewhere looking to see if I was doing it the way he felt it should be done. And
Like that was his baby. Louis was
that
his
was his baby.
character that
He
he
was
was.
a man. You're in pain here. Or he would do just little suggestions, stuff like that. And then they have doctors that are around you all the time, even from the beginning. I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about medical doctors who make
Yeah.
sure you portray whatever illness it is correctly. They're very accurate at that. It was funny. I was, if you watched it, you've seen there was one of them. This brother had a problem with his penis. It was.
Yes, that was a beautifully crafted prosthetic penis. That was a big hit on one of our when we covered that episode.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, I was in my makeup chair and I looked at it, and the guy brought in a whole box of penises,
Oh
and I
my
was
God.
like, he's, we're gonna use these on you, Louie. No.
Oh
Then
my
I put it in.
gosh.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
funny. So I saw that. I said, "What are you gonna do with those?" And it said, "But you know what? The pin is so accurate because I've never seen anybody put a camera on a hard penis and keep it there."
well, ever since you missed your opportunity by leaving the porno film back in the 70s, that
Right,
was your last
exactly.
shot to see
Right.
that.
It all comes full circle, man.
I know it does. So I was like, oh my gosh, but he said, and then every day I said, man, come on, let me shave or let me. He said, man, there's nothing pretty here in the pit. So
Yeah.
you don't do anything to yourself. I was like, just a little makeup. And no makeup, nothing for you. So that was just raw Louis.
It
Were
Yeah.
you
works.
laying there
Yeah, that was my next question,
when?
Becky.
Oh, cool. Mandy and we think a lot alike.
We do.
When they were giving you your eulogy, I guess, Robbie was telling your story, and were you actually laying there? Was that really you?
Yes, it was.
What did you think? Did you know Nurse Emma was going to reach out and grab your hand?
I don't remember if I knew it or not. We struck up a good friendship. She's a
She's a
beautiful girl. She's
sweetheart.
really nice.
Leticia,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. That moment, I think, is when
Mhm.
all of us fell in love with her.
Yeah.
I think that she just did that naturally. I think because we were friends. I'm talking about like really friendly. She was new on the
Yeah.
show and talked all the time. We were friendly. So I think she grabbed my hand because of Ernest. There are people on that set that love me like they love Louis.
Yeah.
And when I didn't even know that I was going to die, this one guy blurted it out one time. And he said, "Oh, you're going to die." He was part of the crew. And then why did he say that? No, I'm staying here. But it started getting around. People would stop me on the lot. Evidently, they seen the scripts, or they knew they were in tight with somebody, and they were like, "Oh no, you can't die."
Like Dead Man Walking.
Yeah, and then one time the script lady came out and just as I was walking to lunch, she grabbed me and started crying. I miss you, and I said,
Oh.
"Wow." I mean, she was sincerely, she missed my character. She missed Ernest.
Well, because
And
he was
so
great and very unique.
And you brought him to life.
it was genuine. I loved everybody over there. It was fun. I did not want to leave.
I'm glad you're getting a renaissance out of it because that character, it sucks that Louis died, but
Mhm.
I think it was it sucks because we could watch you in every episode, but I think it was the right call for the character. And I think
Right.
ultimately it's going to lead to amazing things for you career wise in the next year or two because,
Yes, they said that. It reminded me of I don't equate myself to Jesus, but he died for our sins. Louis had to die to maybe let some of those people out there put that bottle down.
yep, yep, I agree. I think it was such a sensitive, beautiful portrayal. And we had this
Mhm.
whole fantasy worked up on the podcast before that episode aired about our hopes of like what was going to happen in Louis' future and
Mhm.
he was going to hopefully get better and all of that. But after it happened, it was very obvious that they had laid the groundwork that he was already at the end stage. And I
Yeah.
think it is important for people to see
Let's
that,
see.
but also
Yes.
just professionally, I think that if you didn't have that ending, it wouldn't have been as powerful. And maybe it wouldn't have led to hopefully the great things that you were having, the doors that you're going to have opened up to you.
they had so I finally said no because everybody now is telling me that I'm gonna die. So because they didn't let me know.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I sat down, I said, Noah, am I gonna die? He said, sit right here.
Mm.
Yes, you are. I said, oh man, will the checks go with me? No, they won't.
Oh no.
But he says, Ernest, I'm telling you, we're working this. America's gonna be crying for you. And I was like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
we did.
they
really?
were.
I lost
Yeah.
a brother to alcoholism. So
Wow.
your story was, I mean, it touched all of us, but what we want to give you your flowers for before we move into our last question for you is that, we've talked with Charles Baker, who's playing Mr. Digby this season. We've talked to a
Okay.
lot of characters, and, the top of the cast sheet or call sheet or whatever they call it, those guys are great. They're doing a wonderful job. The Noahs, the Patricks, all of that. But what we love are these smaller roles, but end up being the bigger impacts, like Myrna, Jeanette O'Connor, Earl and his Hansford Prince and his sandwiches, Louie and your personality. You guys, the show is great. They do a phenomenal job, but it's these roles that
That
we
make the
talk
show.
about
Yeah.
and that we truly believe make the show. So a credit to you. And it warmed my heart to hear you say that when you took this role, you said, I'm going to make it my own. And you did it well. And we loved Louie, and through Louie, we're learning to love, this other generation learning to love Ernest. And it just looking at you now with this beautiful smile on your face, it just thank you for
Yeah. It's
your
just such a
craft
blessing.
and putting so much into it and giving us someone to love and cheer for. So you're amazing.
Yeah,
I
Louis's
appreciate
gone,
this.
but we're never going to stop talking about Louis as long as we covered
Forever.
the
Yeah.
show. And
Hey,
it really is like going to go down in TV history as a really, really great story arc. I want to point out something before Becky asks this last question. I don't know if you remember this or not, Ernest, but in White Mama, that scene where she goes to take him to re-enroll him in school and they're going to put him in basically, I don't know what it was, like detention
right,
or something. It
right,
was called the
right.
Pit.
It was called the Pit.
Yeah, it
It
was
was
called the
called the
Pit.
Pit.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right.
yeah,
Go back and tell Noah he owes you a check for that.
yeah. Noah,
Tell him you do get another check
you were on the
coming.
original Pit.
Yeah, the OG.
She called it the Pit. You're right.
Yeah.
So this is a little off topic of the pit, but you'll understand when we ask the question. So since you joined the pit, we started stalking your Instagram page and we saw that you were friends with William Stanford Davis. And we
Yeah.
love him on Abbott Elementary.
Yes.
We just want to know, how did y'all meet? Y'all play ball together. Can we get in on that? What has this friendship meant to you?
Well, what happened was, he's a member of a thing. We both members of the Actors Studio. The Actors Studio, they have one in New York and they have one in LA.
The James Lipton Actor Studio.
No, that's a spinoff. That's not really the Actors Studio. That's a spinoff from them.
Okay.
And that's just television. But the actual Actors Studio, Al Pacino runs it. He's the head of it in New York. And Martin Landau.
Also a big basketball player, from what I understand.
Martin Landau?
No. Al Pacino. Back in the day, I've had friends
Oh,
who
yeah,
grew
Al
up with him in New
Pacino.
York, and they played ball with him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? Met him. Well, I met him sort of recently. They had something, but back in the day when I did that movie, I was in and I'm moving off the subject a little bit, but I was in Dog Day Afternoon as an extra
No way.
because I got in that card through 3 days of the
Okay.
concert.
Gotcha.
So I had a small part supposedly, but they didn't ever film it. So I ended up just getting paid just being there. And so I was doing it, and so I got to see him. And when I did this little play at a playhouse with Virginia Capers was a Broadway star. at that time. She did a play called Raisin, and she was one of the stars of it. Raisin, I think Raisin was a musical version of Raisin in the
I was
Sun,
going to ask. Yeah.
and it was on Broadway. So Virginia and I were cool, and she played my mother in that. And then I saw Al Pacino walking down the street one day with a girl and another guy, and I said, "How you doing?" He said, "Man, oh, okay, you're working at that theater." I said, "Yeah." He said, "I did a play up there before." I said, "Oh, you should come see ours and stuff." He said, "Well, I don't know if I can. I will." Well, it didn't happen. He didn't come, but I noticed Al Pacino was like 5'7" or
Yeah,
something.
he's
Say
not a
another
tall
tiny ball player.
man.
Yeah. He was tinier than you were.
Yeah, he was trying. So, but he was a ball. I didn't know he was a ball player,
Yeah.
but he said that he loved that fact that I was working at that theater, and that was only interaction with him until later on. The actor studio had him come and speak to us and all that, and that was cool. So, but he's connected to the actor studio, and I got in, and that's where I met Stan. Stan was already a member of the actor studio. Matter of fact, they were doing a play called Fences. Him and another guy, an actor who passed, who was on Night Court. His name was Charlie Robinson,
I
and
love Charlie Robinson.
he was
Mac. He was amazing.
Yeah,
Mac.
Mike.
That's right.
Yeah.
He was one of my best friends. Period.
Oh, man. We don't have another 3 hours. Don't let me go off on that tangent.
Yeah.
Died too young.
Died too young. Master actor. He was amazing. Matter of fact, he was in that Buffalo Soldiers, that thing I told you about earlier
Yeah.
on. He was also in it. Stan Shaw was also in it. So Charlie Robinson and myself. And then that's where I met Stan, and we were all pretty close, always hanging. We working at the studio. The studio is a great place to work. It's like a gym for actors. And we do these scenes, and every week they have a different scene, and you have to get on to learn and study the scene just like you were ready to perform it, to get up and do it. And then all these people who are analyzing it are people who have done Broadway, who might have Emmys, Oscars, everything. Anybody could be a member there, sitting there analyzing what you did in that scene. So it's kind of a lot of pressure, but it's also good that here these professional people are dissected. When you do a scene, they never call it performance, they call it rehearsal. So you can always, in other words, they're saying there's always room for improvement to get better. So Stan and I got to be really tight, being members of that, and we worked together a lot over there. And then finally, Stan's wife, who was his manager, really good with him. She took him and helped him get that show Abbott Elementary.
So
And once he
good.
got that, we laughed and said, "Man," I said, "Loan me some money, man." He's always
Yeah. Mr. Johnson is one of the best parts of that show.
that show took off like the Pit
Yeah.
because it took off. They were winning all the awards and stuff. So he's like, they're ahead of us in terms of they've been out for a few years, but we're going to eventually be like that in
For
terms of
sure.
that show, the
Yeah.
Pit Blunt. But I'm glad. No, he texted me this morning, man. He took me to the game last week. We're still tight. Yeah, that's my boy.
Will you tell him we say hello and we
I
love
will.
him? And if he wants to come on our podcast and talk Abbott Elementary or anything else, we would love to have him.
Well, do you have his Instagram?
I do have his Instagram, but sometimes when you message, don't always read their Instagram messages, which is tell your son, thank you so much for managing your page and answering. Because sometimes people just don't read them. Like characters come on the Pit, we'll send him a message like, hey, we'd love to talk to you. Some do and some don't. So I'll reach out to him, but I'm going to tell him you told me to.
Please do. Please do. No, tell him, Ernest Harden suggested, and that will open his eyes too.
We're going to tell him
Awesome.
that now that your story arc on the Pit is wrapped up, we need him to get you on Abbott Elementary.
Yeah, I could see. Let's see. How would we
I
write
could
you
make
into
up
Abbott
like 17 different
Elementary?
characters. He could be Janine's dad. We didn't seen that guy.
Oh,
yeah.
oh my God. You and what's her name? Oh my gosh. I want to call her
Taraji
Cookie.
Henson.
Taraji.
Yes.
Henson.
She's oh, that's right. She's in that, isn't she?
Yeah,
Yes,
she's
she's her
Janine's
mom.
mom.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah, we need to get you on there. All right, we're gonna
Anyway.
brainstorm on how we're gonna get you on
Okay,
that off
I
air.
love
But
it. Make it happen. Make it
Yeah, well,
happen.
we got plans. Don't worry.
All right.
Well, is there anywhere else, Ernest, that you want to talk about that we can see you soon? Any causes, pages, new projects, anything you want to tell us about?
I think I was telling you about that, that project that I'm doing is Without Prejudice. I really feel they are so high on that movie. Like I say, Shane Stanley directed it, Harvey Brownstone's story. And my character, they said, will have you crying again.
Yeah, well, that's just what we need.
It's a total different character. Like I say, I look more like this than I did with in the Pit. It's a heartfelt story because this guy went through a lot of stuff too to try to make it and finally become a judge. So
I'm excited.
Is there a release date yet?
September. I don't know the date exactly, but
well,
September.
If you want to come back in September when the movie comes out, we'd love to have you back on if you want to promote.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Anytime you have anything from here on out, as we tell all of our guests that we have on here, you're one of ours now. So, we have a growing audience. It's not the biggest, but it's definitely growing. And we will happily give you an audience to talk about any project that you have going on here on out forever.
I appreciate
Just let us know.
This has been fun. I've had a great time.
Oh, well, I can't tell you how much we love you. Like we're excited for everyone that we get to talk to, but you're something special. So,
well, if we promote that movie in Nashville, I'll be calling you guys.
Please do. Please look us up next time you're in Nashville. That would be so much fun to go have some dinner and chat.
We could take it, yeah.
We would love it.
Suggestions. We could meet you somewhere and have a nice dinner together. We would. Oh man, that'd just be a dream.
That would be cool.
Yeah,
my dream too would be great.
Oh, thanks, Ernest.
All right. We will be sure to post a link to your social media in our show notes so listeners can find you. And like we said, just thank you so much. I can see on your Instagram how busy you are, so that you took the time to talk to us two little old podcasters. It means the world, and it means a lot to our listeners. This is going to be a highlight interview. I can tell. So, but again, like we said, come back anytime. We would love to have you.
Thank you. And send that to my son, because maybe he can top it up and use parts of it, in the publicity. Yeah, once you edit it.
Yeah, once I get it edited and posted, we'll tag you in it, and then it'll automatically go into your messages, and he can have it. And please tell him to
do whatever,
work his magic and do whatever he wants with it. The more people that hear about you, the more people that hear about us. So we're in this together. I think that's great. That would be amazing.
That's great. Yeah, awesome.
Well, it was good meeting you, Ernest. This has been the highlight of my week.
Hey, vice versa. Thank you so much.
Well, this wraps up our interview with the amazing Ernest Harden Jr. Next up, we are going to be continuing our coverage of season 2 of The Pitt.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. I'm Becky.
I am still Mandy.
And I'm Ernest Harden Jr., a.k.a. Louie Cloverfield from The Pitt.
Yes. We'll catch you next week when we grab the remote and see what's on tonight. Bye.
Bye.